Hey guys, Karan from MobiScrub here, and today I'm going to review the Galaxy A70. With one of the best mid-range processors, 6 gigs of RAM, a triple camera system, an in-display fingerprint sensor, 128 gigs of onboard storage, and a large, high-resolution Super AMOLED display, the Galaxy A70 is kind of a sweet deal for Rs 28,990. But does it deliver the experience and performance that you expect from these specs and that price? Let's find out. So quickly unboxing the Galaxy A70, the first thing obviously you see is the A70. Now it only comes in one variant, that's 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, and I have the white color. Moving on is the super fast charger. So this is not your regular fast charger. This is 25 watts of super fast charging. And one more thing. You get a Type-C USB cable on both ends. So you can't, use the cable for connecting to a laptop or to a USB port. It's Type-C on both ends. And unlike the M series, you still get the in-ear earphones within the box when you buy the Galaxy A70, so that's really good. And then that's the ejection pin. That's pretty much it. And let's also open this up. It's probably going to have one of those cases. And yes, it's a rubber case. It's completely transparent, so definitely put that on. You've got a glass back and you don't want to spoil it with any kind of scratches or fingerprint smudges. You want to be able to keep it clean. So you get this rubbery case, and that's what you slap on. So here you go guys, that's the Galaxy A70, and when you look at it, there are really two things that stand out. The white color and that large display. Now my experience with white color phones is fairly low, and I don't know what's a good white, but I do know that this one looks really nice and premium, and it's got this light bouncing off the back. It's got a rainbow pattern to it, depending on different angles. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting look. It's got a glass plus ceramic look to it, so very interesting. And of course, the triple camera system in the rear panel. It's sort of a norm these days. Samsung's been putting this out on almost all its phones now, and we'll talk more about it later in the video. And as I said, you get a large display in the front, and it's got this U notch, so you get a really good screen to body ratio, pretty immersive. At the bottom, you get a Type-C port for data syncing and fast charging, and earphone jack, so you do get to connect your regular earphones, and of course the ones that are provided within the box. You don't get a dedicated Bixby key, but there is a setting in the phone that would allow you to hold the power key to launch Bixby if at all you want to use it. Now, in terms of how easy it is to use with just one hand, it's not. It's a large phone, and though it does have, that one-handed operation, it kind of defeats the purpose of owning a large screen phone. But a large screen has pros and cons to it, and that means it's difficult to keep in your pocket or use it with just one hand. But when when you're watching a movie or when you're playing a game, it's just an unparalleled experience. Surprisingly, it does not feel very bulky despite a large screen and a pretty hefty battery. It's pretty slim, feels premium, and overall, it looks good. Moving on to the software, the Galaxy A70 is running on Android 9 Pie with Samsung One UI version 1.1, which also happens to be the same software on, the new Galaxy S10 lineup. So you almost get like a flagship software experience on the Galaxy A70, which is good. Now you're presented with a lock screen that contains lock screen stories, and these lock screen stories change every time you lock and unlock your display. Now you could swipe down to explore that story. Some of these could be sponsored, could be useful, may not be useful, and you could scroll them like a feed if you want to, just engage yourself into some content or entertainment. But otherwise, you could just unlock it. Of course, there's optical in-display fingerprint sensor. It's not ultrasonic, and you still have face unlock, which I actually prefer over the fingerprint unlock because it's just faster, so it's there. And right out of the box, your phone does not come with too many pre-installed applications, which is good. There's not a ton of bloatware. Samsung's just put in the essentials, and that's pretty much it. So you get some Microsoft apps, you get Google apps. All these other apps that you see at the end are something that I've already installed on the phone after I opened it up. But yeah, it does, the software allows you for some customization, as does One UI. So you can change your navigation styles, you could use gestures, you could turn your phone into dark mode, and all your native UIs go dark, and that's really good. So yeah, you've got all of that. And now let's talk about the display. It's a 6.7-inch display with a resolution of 1080 by 2400 pixels. That's insane clarity, crispness, and a very high resolution actually. Plus it's Super AMOLED display, so you get the best-in-class display from Samsung, and we all know how good Super AMOLED displays are. I mean, the screens are absolutely fantastic, they're punchy, the colors burst out like in no other display. And of course, what you see here on the video is what you see through my camera lens, which may not be the perfect way to really look at and measure this display, but I can tell you it's really high quality. It's very crisp, and whatever games you play or videos you watch, you're gonna have a lot of fun. Just look at the way those colors pop out. It's really really good. So definitely 6.7 inches of that, you're gonna have a lot of fun. And yeah, it's just the sharpness, the clarity is just insane. And here is just a clip I'm playing from the movie. I mean, it's amazing. I love how it looks. And the fact that you're able to get this display at a cost like this with everything else that the phone is offering, I think it's a pretty good deal overall that I've been saying. And jumping right into the performance, the Galaxy A70 is running on Snapdragon 675. It's a fairly new processor, it's pretty fast, it's very battery efficient, and delivers a pretty good performance for a mid-range processor. Now, as you can see, the benchmark scores are not that great, but as long as the software is well optimized to provide, a good user experience, use the resources like RAM and processor really well, I think you still get a pretty decent experience. Now, from a ranking perspective, it's obviously way below, and the best way I thought was to just test it on a few games. So I did play the Asphalt 9. It actually started playing pretty well, even the load times were not that high. The processor is really doing its job. It's rendering graphics in full HD graphics, okay? So it's really high quality. But as I played Asphalt 9 for a little longer, I started feeling some choppiness. And you can see that now that there is some sort of lag, there is a bit of choppiness in the video. The closer I got to finishing the level. So I don't know what's happening here. It could be the RAM is getting full because the processor I know is completely capable. And I did move on to playing Modern Combat 5. Absolutely no issue. It was absolutely beautiful, gorgeous graphics, very crisp. Absolutely enjoyed all the graphics. You can see the texture, the detail. Look at that shading. Look at the gradient and the smoke. Even the sparks that are coming out of the fire. It's really good. It's very realistic. It's pretty comparable to any flagship experience that I have with respect to this game. So yeah, totally. And you could say that I haven't played this game for long, so I did that, and I went all the way to finishing the initial level, and yeah, there was no issue at all. The graphics were rendering still pretty smooth. The entire gameplay was flawless all the way to the end, and I really enjoyed playing it. And again, 6.7 inches, and you can see it's a full screen experience. And then I, of course, went on to PUBG. It automatically set the graphic requirement to high, which means the game thinks it's capable of handling high graphics. So that's really good news. So I went on, just testing it out on the level. Again, look at the shading, look at the shadows, look at that gradient of sunlight falling onto the floor. The details in the grass, again, that shadow, look at how the stones are sort of really well detailed. So again, I think it's fabulous to see that, a phone in this price range works actually pretty well with these high definition games. And by the way, this is all multiplayer, right? So it's all online multiplayer gaming, and you can see that there is no lag. Of course, I am on my wireless network and not on 4G data, but even for that, I think it's doing a pretty good job. And if you're into this game, you're gonna love playing on it. And now onto the camera. Samsung's been integrating a tri-camera setup at the back on many phones, and the Galaxy A70 is one of them. You get an impressive low-light camera lens that's 32 megapixels with an f-stop of 1.7, which means you get really high-quality, crisp, high-detailed photos, and the f1.7 makes sure that you get really good photos even with low light. So, even if you're struggling with, you're in a club, you're at a restaurant, or let's say you're just walking out in the night or in the dark conditions, and you take a picture with this lens, you can pretty much get a very bright photo. And I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you can download these photos and you can test out the quality yourself on a computer or on your phone. Next, you get an ultra-wide lens, which is 8 megapixels. So, I think we're all pretty aware of what ultra-wide lens can do, and I'm just going to take you right into the sample. So this is the photo that I took with the main lens, right, the 32 megapixel lens, and that is what you get with the ultra-wide lens. Just look at the field of view. You'll also notice that the main lens is slightly cooler in its tone, but the ultra-wide lens, the photo that takes, is slightly warmer. It gets even more obvious in this sample. You see how this is evening and it's sort of getting dark, but when I took the picture the same time with an ultra-wide lens, just look at how beautiful the scene looks and that gradient in the sky. The last one is your bokeh lens or the live focus lens, and it's 5 megapixels. And I think it does a fabulous job even with that 5 megapixel. Just look at that. Trust me guys, this is just taken randomly with the Galaxy A70, and the quality is just, the blur quality is so good. I love it. Oh, and by the way, if you love taking selfies, you're gonna love this phone. It's got a 32 megapixel front facing camera, so you can imagine the sharpness and the clarity you're gonna get. In the camera software, you get all your modes at the bottom. So you've got slow motion, hyperlapse, you get super slow mo as well. And here's a video of that. This is super slow mo. It's all 720p, but I've stretched it to 1080p, and you can still see that the video quality is pretty amazing. So definitely a little bit more pixelated, but even on 1080p when I've stretched it, just look at that action there. And of course, there are more modes that you could play with, and you can manage all of those under settings. Now there is an inbuilt scene optimizer, so depending on the scene, it will automatically improve the brightness, the contrast. You can switch between the normal lens and the ultra wide lens using, these toggles. And there is live focus that takes you to the third lens, creating that bokeh effect that you really love. Now in Pro mode, you can only alter ISO, white balance, and exposure. And lastly, let's come to the battery life. You get a 4500 milliampere hour battery at the back, which is actually very sizable for any phone. It's undoubtedly going to last you the entire day and sometimes day and a half without charge, depending on use. Plus, it comes with super fast charging, and not just fast charging. So instead of a regular 15-watt charger, you get a 25-watt charger. That's insane. It's just going to be really fast for a 4500 milliampere hour battery, and you can be on the go in no time. Overall, the Galaxy A70 is like an all-rounder smartphone that's got a good of everything, including its price. Performance, display, and camera all packed together in a good-looking phone, and it's priced well enough. It does lack the superior snappy performance given it has a semi-powerful processor, but it should be enough to deliver a good user experience at the end of the day. So you buy this phone if you're looking for a great display experience, a long-lasting battery to take you through the day, and credibility of a Samsung smartphone. The only 4 competitors that I think are worth considering are the Vivo V15 Pro, the Oppo F11 Pro, the Redmi Note 7 Pro, and the Asus Zenfone 5Z.